There he is, Darian Durant for Campbell Safety Consulting. We are one exhibition game, preseason game in, Darian. A lot of criticism. You know what it's like in Sasky. A lot of criticism going around. The new hot toy on the market in Sask is a gentleman by the name of Dre McCray. Nice performance, though, right out of the gate, making him think on special teams.
Hey, that's the way to make the team. I mean, you hear it so much, especially in the NFL. If you watch Hard Knocks or any of these type shows, you know, they always tell the guys, if you want to stand out, get out there on special teams and make plays. And here's a prime example of getting out there and making plays when your opportunity presents itself.
Now, I know that when we first learned of Darian Durant, you were a quarterback in the CFL, and then you were a quarterback in college. Did you ever anywhere along the way have to play special teams because you weren't doubles as we know him?
You know what's crazy? I did. When I went as a free agent to the Baltimore Ravens, they had me catching punts for the first time in my life, just catching punts.
Wow.
Notice I said catching, not returning, because there's no way I could do that. But I was at practice, catching punts off the jug machine, and I actually dislocated my finger. Luckily, it was on my non-throwing hand in one of those drills. So, at that point in time, a 5'11" quarterback was kind of unheard of. So I was trying to do any and everything I could to make the team.
You were doing your Kerry Joseph, right? Play whatever position it takes.
Exactly. At least trying to. Kerry was a hell of a lot better athlete than I ever was. So,
and now when you tried out for Baltimore, who was the head coach at the time?
It was Brian Billick.
Brian Billick. Okay. Old school.
I mean, that team was loaded. It was Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Deion Sanders, Chris McAllister, Jamal Lewis at running back. They were loaded, man. Loaded.
Who was the nicest? Who was the most welcoming out of those celebs that you just mentioned?
Oh, man, I would say Ray Lewis. I mean, he was, even though he was a superstar, future Hall of Famer, he definitely looked at everyone around that locker room as a contributing factor, right? He knew that he couldn't do it alone. He knew that from player 53 on down to 1, everyone had a role. So he definitely showed that. He was a good dude.
Back to he would actually talk to guys? Oh, yeah, because, I mean, Ray Lewis doesn't need to talk to a young Darian Durant who's a rookie.
With a dislocated finger.
I was too intimidated to even go up to him. I would never go up to him and just hold a conversation. But it was more so if I ever struggled or if I tried to make a play and he was close by, I would, tap him, say, I would have made that play on you, old head, because he was older at the time. But, he was definitely a down-to-earth guy.
Were you surprised that they played Trevor Harris? Were you surprised that they played Trevor Harris as much as they did?
I was. I was thinking that, especially with the crowd noise in Winnipeg, anything could happen. For me in Winnipeg on a fake, a play that never happened, you just don't want to risk those things in that environment, especially in the preseason. So I was surprised to see him out there for so many snaps. I would think that, it would be a home game where he would get more reps. But, it's something that Coach wanted to see. Coach wanted to see the first team offense get more reps. I'm not sure how they've been performing during camp, but it's, for me, it's an obvious sign that, those guys needed more live reps.
We saw some movement between the 20s, but it turned out to be a field goal fest on both sides, and that can happen in preseason football. I just thought with the amount of starters playing for both teams that we would have maybe saw some early points being put up in the way of touchdowns. Saskatchewan and Winnipeg. I mean, because Caleros, yes, they've lost some guys, but there's still some weapons there. Now for you, when you did that, is it rust? Is it lack of communication? Is it just not enough reps? What usually is the cause of Field Goal Festival 2025?
I think it's a combination of all those things. I think there's rust. I think, guys are getting back into the flow of things. I think it's game speed you have to get adjusted to. And I think it's game planning, right? I don't think you go into that game, with the plan of how to attack a defense when you get in the score zone or the red zone, or you're not scheming up to beat Winnipeg's defense in the score zone. You're really just calling your basic plays, seeing what works, and not really trying to do anything extra that you don't want them to see. So I wouldn't put too much into that. I don't think the playbook was that big at all to where they were scheming things to score down there when they got close. So I wouldn't put too much onus on that at all.
There were some bright spots. One of them, Jackson Ford.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are some guys, and I was just talking to Luke a couple days ago. There are some guys that are really, really sticking out at camp, showing what they can do, and guys that are really ready to put depth on that team, which is really what they're going to need, because every year there's injuries. Every year things happen to starters or guys that were counted on to play a big role for the team. So it's good to have depth and guys that show you that they can make plays.
Now, Darian, when you played, there's two different types of safeties. There's guys like Atunde Adeleke, who retired in the offseason. For a small guy, he was violent, just like Katsantonis for Hamilton. When you're back there, because there's certain safeties that play well, but they're not the heavy hitters or not the big guys. Like, are you always conscious of that with your receivers over the middle? Can you take a little more with a safety that's not as physical, as opposed to a guy that's going to blow up guys like Jackson Ford was doing?
Yeah, I think you always have to know where he is. He's one of those guys that you'll tell your receiver, I don't want to risk it in this situation, especially your health at this point. Later on in the season, playoff time, crunch time, then you have to go for the gusto, right? You have to do what you have to do. But as the season begins and there's a long marathon ahead of you, you have to be wary of guys like that. So I don't think you take as many chances with him sitting and patrolling the middle of the field. You make sure that you're cautious, because it's a marathon, man. It's about longevity, and you want those guys to be, healthy towards the end of the season.
Was there one that stands out? Is there a moment that you exposed someone maybe early in the year that you didn't want to, and you knew, and you were like, what was I thinking, and who was it?
You know what? I tried to make sure that early on in the season, I didn't take as many chances across the middle of the field. I tried to work the sidelines as much as possible. If I was throwing in the middle of the field, I try to keep it under 15 yards, or where receivers working his way back to the quarterback instead of running vertically down the middle. So there are strategic ways you have to plan, especially depending on your opposing team, right? You need to know the personnel, what type of guys they have. Are they a physical team? Are they more of a nimble, pull you down, or will they hit you in the mouth? These are things you game plan each and every week. So it just depends on who you're playing, and you take that into account when you decide to attack them across the middle of the field.
I think that just hearing that explanation, if you are game planning, and you have to game plan around a physical safety, it's almost like advantage defense, because you'd be like, well, I can't go there. That's one less place to go. So, like, all right. And keep in mind, there are still skill guys that weren't big hitters that played safety, but if that threat is always there, we'll get into more threats when we start talking about some of the other games this weekend. Anything else stand out for you? Bright spots that you saw from the Rider game on Saturday? Anybody that caught your eye if you're playing Darian GM Durant?
Well, I really was just looking at Jake Mayer to see, how he took command of the offense. I know it's a system he was familiar with. I think he did okay. I would have loved to see him be a little bit more efficient. But for me, I was really, because I hate to say this, but Trevor hasn't really played a full season in the past couple of years, so I really wanted to see the backups and what they could do, especially when you get rid of Shea Patterson, a guy who came in and played pretty well and won some key ball games when Trevor went down. I wanted to see if Jake, showed that he could do the same thing. So my eyes are really on the quarterback situation to see what they can do. I think they're solid across the board at receiver and at running back, so I want to see what the depth is like behind Trevor.
Darian Durant is brought to you by Campbell Safety Consulting. If you don't have a proper safety program, call Campbell Safety Consulting. You talked about the running backs. There's some bright spots there, right? Like Thomas the Train, Bertrand Houdon. A lot of people were raving about him. Even AJ looked good on a long one. Again, the boys are painting the picture for me on the radio. Dave talked about it in hour one. That's good to see because that also means the offensive line are opening up holes, right, Darian?
Absolutely. I mean, we've said time and time again about the weather late in the season and the type of elements you're going to be playing in the West. And you need that run game. And not only during late in the season, you know, the Riders have stalled. And I think, Maz, we've talked about this numerous times, how the Riders stall when they seem to get inside the 20. So you need a guy or a group of guys that you can depend on, that Trevor can turn around, hand the ball off to, and can get you key yards and get you into a situation where you can put 6 points on the board instead of 3.
One of the things that I saw with the 4 games, 2 things stood out. One, Bo Levi Mitchell is not going to be shy to throw the football to his new shiny toy. That's number one. And number 2, I think the Calgary Stampeders mean business, because they dominated the Edmonton Elks 31-4.
Settle down.
And
Settle down.
And it's only preseason. But Darian, I'm not sure if you caught any of the game or the highlights. Vernon Adams, when he was in, he played well. He was hitting on some cylinders.
Look, for the first half of the season last year, he's the league MOP, hands down, and nobody's even close. And, you know, I'm sure he has that extra motivation, that extra chip on his shoulder being shipped out of BC. And now he has a new home, a team that believes in him. And not only that, man, we're not used to seeing Calgary struggle like this. We're not used to seeing, you know, a team not even make the play, not the type of talent to even compete. So you best believe in that front office over there in Calgary. They're doing everything they can to make sure that team is ready to go, fired up. And I think they're going to be a problem in the West this year.
I do too. And I don't think it's a paper preseason thing. I think they have some legitimate players. And the Kenny Lawler, Bo Levi Mitchell in Hamilton, like, yeah, if he gets 6,000 yards, don't be try. Like, first play of the game, the 35 yards down the right sideline. Yeah, it was pass interference, but Kenny Lawler just moved the ball 35 yards because they are not afraid to chuck it.
Look, if you know anything about Scott Milanovich, you know that he loves his shiny, bright, fast cars at receiver. If you look at his time in Montreal and with Ricky Ray in Toronto, he's all about putting receivers on the field that can help your quarterback out. And, you know, you can see what they did this offseason and bringing in Lawler. And you know, they have guys who stepped up last year as younger receivers. And my guy, Naaman Roosevelt, over there as the receivers coach, just, you know, he's so excited about the group he has this year and building off of what they did last year. So watch out for Hamilton. I think they'll be a force to be reckoned with this season.
Oh, boy, Hamilton, Calgary, Grey Cup. Hey, the boys are thinking over here.
No. Don't count the Riders out yet now. But
no.
These are some strong teams. It's going to be a good season this year. Looking forward to it.
You got it. All right, Doubles. Thanks as always. Good one. And then, we'll recap the home game next Monday.
Thanks, guys.